And Booger, will the Packers' offense be better or worse this season?
Well, I mean, it's tough to lose one of the best receivers in football and be better. So now that Devontae Adams is in Las Vegas, even though I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be outstanding, I'm going to say worse, just because we don't know who's going to take the place of being that dominant number one for the Packers. So, yeah, I think they got to be worse. Because if I said better, that's being disrespectful to Devontae Adams.
Good point. Jeremy, will the Chiefs' offense be better or worse?
Yeah, I'm with Booger, same theme. I'm going to go worse. Tyreek Hill is not a player you can just replace. He's got that Steph Curry factor where he spreads the field, gets other guys open passing lanes, and so they're going to be fine. They're going to be high-equipped. Marquez Valdez-Scantley's going to step up. Juju Smith-Schuster, Patrick Mahomes going to have an edge to him this year. Not quite as good, though, without Hill.
Okay, so, Booger, let's turn to the Cowboys' offense. Will they be better or worse?
I think they're going to be better because I think Dak Prescott is going to be better. And I get it. We can talk about all the other pieces. Amari Cooper is gone. The offensive line may not be what it used to be. But this is a quarterback-driven league. And I think Dak Prescott is hearing all the noise about, is he worth the $40 million and all that good stuff. All I know, when the season opened last year and Dak Prescott was down here in Tampa, he looked like the best player on the field. I think we're going to see that more often this season.
Okay, well, speaking of some of that noise you're talking about, Pro Football Focus released its annual NFL roster rankings, and you see the traditional teams up there like the Packers and the Bucs inside the top 5, the Chiefs in the top 10. But you got to go all the way to 16 to find the Cowboys, a team with Dak, Zeke, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, has the most average roster according to PFF. And wow, you talk about maybe for some disrespect there. Jeremy Fowler, I'll start with you. What are you hearing around the league about these Cowboys?
Well, teams and execs I talked to are still high on the Cowboys, believe that they would be the favorite in the NFC East if they were to start today, with Philadelphia pushing them pound for pound. But there are a few reasons why teams are high on the Cowboys. Dak Prescott is healthy, so he should have a better season. CeeDee Lamb is considered a high-end talent that could be a top 10 receiver by the end of the year. And then you have guys like Micah Parsons, on the other end that are elite, 1% type players that can kind of wreck the game at any time. So there's enough talent to get by where they probably are closer to the top 10 than middle of the road based on people I talked to.
Booger, you talked about this offense being better in Dallas this year. Why do you think they're seeing this kind of disrespect? Middle of the road in terms of offenses and teams in the NFL, according to this ranking.
Well, I think it would probably be because the offensive line is not what it used to be. Tyron Smith is aging at left tackle. You got to replace Amari Cooper. Ezekiel Elliott is not what he used to be. So I can go on. And so I can understand on paper when we look at these teams and say, this is who we think they're going to be. And let's not forget, we're just a year or so removed from this defense being absolutely terrible. But I think the continued improvement under Dan Quinn, I think the continued improvement of Dak Prescott, and just the overall, sometimes it's about mindset, and it's about having to go out and prove something. I think the Cowboys, especially Dak Prescott, they have something to prove, especially from people on this network. Like, we continue to bash Dak, and trust me, I think he hears it, and a motivated Dak Prescott and a motivated CeeDee Lamb is something I want to see come September.
So, Booger, what do you need to see from Dak this year?
Well, I think if you're Dak, you have to go back to doing what made you a guy the Cowboys wanted to pay $40 million, which is really simple, which is be a playmaker. Remember that Bills-Chiefs game we saw in the postseason where we saw Mahomes and Allen in and out of the pocket making plays? Like, we saw that from Dak game one against the Buccaneers down here in Tampa, but we didn't see a lot of that throughout the season. He needs to continue to be that mobile playmaker. He's an athletic quarterback. You're not a pocket passer, a guy that's going to stand still. Yes, you can throw from the pocket and you can do it very well, but use all of your assets. And one of his biggest assets is his legs. Get out of the pocket, move around, make plays down the field. You don't have to worry, and I get it. If you've ever been hurt and you've ever done something the way that Dak did with his ankle, there's some hesitancy to do it again. But he's got to get over that and get out and move around and be a mobile quarterback, because that's what made Dak Dak. And I didn't think he did that toward the end of the season last year.
Yeah, with a year under his belt back from that injury, maybe he'll be showing a little bit more of that this season. Now, Booger, let's revisit this eye candy. And you changed my mind. When I first saw this Odell Beckham painting commission with him picking himself up, the Ram picking up the Brown, I was skeptical. But you changed my mind. You got me looking at art in a whole new way. What do you make of this?
Yeah, art is always in the eyes of the beholder. Now, this is not the Mona Lisa or anything that we're going to hang in the Sistine Chapel. Like, this is not that. But what this is so much irony, and there's so many words that I can use to describe this. You have OBJ, who came from New York to Cleveland, who fell down. You have OBJ that went to the Rams and won a Super Bowl. And now I'm going to go back in time, and I'm going to pick my brother up, and I'm going to bring you forward. Like, there's so many words you can use to describe this that if you put this on a wall at Ryan Smith's house, people will stop and just stare at it. And that's what you want from art. People to look, congregate, and talk about it.
See, I don't know if it would work if OBJ was on my wall like this, but maybe if it was me picking myself up from a Sports Center suit to a get-up suit, maybe that would make a difference.
It would be weird if you had a picture of you picking yourself up from a Sports Center set, Ryan.
Yeah, it'd be weird.
It'd be very weird. All right, so let's get off the weirdness and go back to Odell. Jeremy, what are you hearing about OBJ and where it could end up this season?
Yeah, Ryan, I'm hearing the Rams remain optimistic that Odell Beckham could re-sign with them. That's the hope. They've been keeping in contact with Beckham, but I'm also hearing that he's going to be patient. He's not going to be ready to play off that torn ACL and probably until October, maybe November. So he can actually sit back, wait, see what some contenders are doing going through training camp, and even in the regular season, he wants to wait that long to see who needs wide receiver help. Green Bay Packers were involved with Beckham last season when he was a free agent, could get involved again if they realize they need more help for Aaron Rodgers.
All right, that could be, oh, wow, what a matchup that would be. Booger, which team should get Odell Beckham Jr., try to pick him up this season?
Well, I mean, obviously, I can state the Packers and because of their lack of receiver depth, but any team that needs a wide receiver. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr., especially for the stretch run, I think he's going to be healthy somewhere around late November, early December. Don't hold me to that. I'm not trying to play a doctor on TV, but if you're looking for a receiver that can give your team some juice, that can help your football team, that can be a playmaker, I think he and Chris Godwin are going to be in a very similar situation. Now, I know Godwin is under contract for Tampa, but if you think about players that are going to make an impact for a team come late November, early December, OBJ, Chris Godwin, we're going to forget about them September and October and maybe November. But come December, those two guys are going to make a huge impact for their respective teams.
And once again, Odell Beckham Jr. will be a lot of the talk if he waits that long towards the end of the season when he filed his paperwork to pick up his $36.5 million option for the Nets next season. Sources told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, earlier this week, there was all that drama surrounding Kyrie after he released that list of teams that he would consider in a trade. Here they are: Lakers, Clippers, Knicks, Heat, Mavericks, and the Sixers. But some very interesting destinations, obviously, on that list, like the Knicks. And it'd be interesting to see him play for the Sixers after Harden reportedly wanted out because of Kyrie. It's a whole thing. But anyway, Wendy, when we look at that list, what's the reaction around the league? What was that reaction when they saw this list?
Cool.
Cool. Okay. That's it?
I mean,
not fired up. We're going to get Kyrie in-house.
I know that, like, especially in other sports, you know, I mean, by the way, there are role players in the NBA who want to be traded and they provide lists. It happens. Mm-hmm. And it's always an interesting thing. And a lot of times when a team is listed on the list, it's like, oh, this is interesting. Let's have a discussion. By the way, those teams did have discussions. Some of those teams saw this coming in the last month and had discussions. Do we want Kyrie Irving here? But the demand for Kyrie Irving on a long-term contract just doesn't exist right now.
Look, this goes back to what Adrian Wojnarowski reported the other day, right? There's this list of teams out there. Hey, Kyrie, you can go seek out a sign and trade. There was one team that was willing to do it. That was the Lakers. Why? Because the Lakers had no other option.
Do you know why they let him go seek a sign and trade, Ryan?
Why?
Because they knew there wasn't going to be one.
So they called his bluff.
Yes. And Kyrie took the cards and said, fold.
Kyrie wanted a long-term extension in Brooklyn. This list was designed to try to get him a long-term extension in Brooklyn. It didn't work. He opted into his deal. He's now on a one-year contract in Brooklyn.
So this was nothing like the Russell Wilson list that he put out.
No,
in football, where it was like, oh my God, Russell Wilson.
The Seahawks wanted Russell Wilson on their team, and other teams wanted Russell Wilson on their team. This is a situation where Kyrie looked around and didn't have a chair except for his option, which he was contractually able to pick up.
He folded his cards, but the game isn't over. So more hands are going to be played, and so we'll see how those develop.
So speaking of that, hands that need to be played, we know what Kyrie, well, at least we think we know what Kyrie wants, which is to get a max deal somewhere, preferably with the Nets. What must he do to get a max deal from the Nets?
Well, it would help to be on the court and play. I mean, that would be the first step.
That would be step one.
No, but I mean, is it like 70 games and a title or anything short of a title won't make it happen?
Look,
that kind of thing.
I think, you know, as I've said many times, you can only answer Kyrie questions with maybe. And that goes with this too. But if Kyrie Irving is on the court this season and plays well for the Nets, I mean, remember, he was an All-NBA guard 2 years ago, right? If the Nets make a deep playoff run, if Kyrie's on the court for a bunch of games, if they play well, if everything looks great, sure, something could change in the future. He could get a long-term deal for him. I'm not ruling it out.
How things had changed with James Harden over the course of 9 months. We could see things change. Kyrie was a 50-40-90 player 2 years ago. He was almost a 50-40-90 player this last year, but he only played, not as many games. If he has a good year and the Nets, profit as an organization, I think they could see it. But I think the days of Kyrie Irving getting a 4-year contract offer, which is what he was looking for here, I would be surprised if he ever gets that again from anybody.
Wow, no matter what, title even.
I mean, I'm not saying no matter what to anything because we're in the NBA. But again, step one with James Harden was helping the Sixers be in a better position to win. Step one for Kyrie Irving will be getting on the court in October.
Take it.